Well, the jobs number that was released today from ADP showed that companies are continuing to lay off workers. So just when will we start to see hiring? For the answer, we turn to Matthew Ferguson. He's the CEO of CareerBuilder.com. Matthew, who's hiring and when are they going to start?
Well, there are companies hiring, but the positions that I've seen come back in the last few months are information technology, sales, customer service. The industries have been healthcare, education, of course, government, energy in some areas. And so those are the industries, those are the positions that we're seeing right now. But to your point, there's not a lot of hiring going on. It is definitely more tepid than I think we had hoped for as we get into the fall. And it may be another 6 months before we see that overall jobs number increase each month.
Now, CareerBuilder.com released a report earlier today with some of the figures that you're seeing in terms of trend within the segment of the business where there already have been layoffs and perhaps some rehiring that's happening. I mean, are you hearing from corporations that perhaps some of the cuts were too swiftly taken and that perhaps this rehiring is a sign not necessarily of new job creation, but perhaps that the cuts were a little too deep to begin with?
Well, actually, I really don't hear that. I think what we're seeing is the number of cuts that are projected in the fourth quarter in the survey are down, and the ones that were projected in the third quarter were down from the second quarter. So I think that companies are realizing they can't continue to cut anymore. I don't hear that there's a big snapback in hiring for those companies that have cut. Some are definitely looking at hiring back now. That's better than it was 6 months ago. But I don't hear a big snapback. I think companies are going to really decrease the number of cuts in the next few months, but the hiring is going to come at a much slower rate.
And proof seems to be in the paycheck. What are those looking like?
Well, I think you see that about half the employers are not planning on doing anything with salary increases next year. Another 25% from our surveys suggested the salary increases would be, 0 to 2%. And then others were wanting to be more optimistic about salary increases as we get into next year. And so that was positive. But I think when you look overall, I'm guessing if you're going to see salary increases in the United States somewhere around the 2% mark if people get them as companies look at their budgeting for 2010.
And you're seeing strength in the south of the United States. What's driving that?
Yeah, I think that was a little surprising given the real estate market in the south. But what we're seeing is healthcare and education and energy have helped the employment market outlook in the South, and it was probably the most optimistic of the regions. Right behind it would be the Northeast, and then the Midwest and in the West. And I think when you saw some of the poverty numbers coming out of the government, you see that the West and the Midwest were most widely hurt in the poverty area, and increases in poverty as we look at the last year. And so those would be consistent with what we saw in the survey.
Of the regions and of the jobs that you are seeing being created or the hiring that is happening, how permanent or temporary are those positions? In other words, are they seasonal hires or are these full-time hires?
Well, what we're seeing is they're full-time hires. I don't see that the change in the mix is based on any seasonality or a move towards more temp hiring at this stage. I think these positions that we're seeing are full-time hires that the company plans to have as part of their strategy going forward.
Okay. Before we go, what is your best recommendation to someone who is in the job market right now because they are facing a lot of competition, a lot of talent out there vying for a slim number of jobs?
Yeah, I know. There's no easy answer for those that are in the job market right now. I think the best thing that you can say is, do an evaluation of where you are. If it's time to get more education and skills, take the time to do that now because, quite frankly, I don't think the job market's going to be all that great the next 6 months. And so it may be a good time to enhance your skills so that you're more marketable when the job market's better. Other than that, all you can do is work harder and smarter than everybody out there. Continue to talk to as many people as you can, and you will find a job.
All right. Thank you so much, Matthew Ferguson of CareerBuilder.com.